Have you ever noticed that us investors, fall in love with stocks? We don't just buy them, we don't just trade them, we fall in love with them. We become emotionally attached to them, right? Like they're your baby. That's my baby, right? That's my go-to stock. And once we fall in love with them, something psychological changes and emotional. We stop seeing the stock clearly. I know I do. I become emotionally attached to it. And if I'm doing it, I'm pretty sure other people are doing it too. Right? I've done this. I've had stock relationships before. I've had relationships with stocks, with certain stocks. I could give you the tickers now. Some of those relationships were exciting. Some of them made me money. Some of them ended badly. Some of them cost me money, time, frustration, anxiety, right? And some of them, I tested it, I sampled it, and I never went back again for obvious reasons. Today, I want to talk about why stocks are strangely similar to romantic relationships and why understanding this might actually make us, you and I, better investors. The first stock I ever really fell in love with was CoreWeave, CRWV. CoreWeave was exciting, right? She was young, vibrant, feisty, just taking off, just getting started, a newcomer, right? Good looking, good fundamentals, new, fast moving, big gains, good momentum. Everything felt really easy. That was my first real stock market romance, me and CoreWeave. And then later, after CoreWeave came Hood, Robinhood, Hood. Hood. I was in love with Hood. We had our thing. We had a great run. I remember meeting her. And she was young and on her way up also. A long, successful relationship. It made me money. And then eventually something changes, right? Something else comes to the fore. And so that new something takes your interest away. And you forget all about Hood. Or Hood just it just settles somewhere and you just let it go. I think what happened with Hood was everything went into rotation. Everything rotated out of tech and into something else, and that was the end of Hood. And CoreWeave, same thing. CoreWeave was just skyrocketing. And I remember it hit 70, 75, 80 right after its IPO. It took off. A few weeks later, it's up around 80, maybe 90. But then something changes, and you just step off it. You step away from it. It's like getting off a train. You're on board a train for a while and things are going cool, and you reach your destination and you get off the train, right? Only to go and get on board another train going to some other destination. Momentum fades, and maybe the story changes, maybe you and I change, but one day you look back and you realize, I was emotionally connected to that stock, but I'm not anymore. So it's like an old girlfriend, an old relationship. It's like that's a thing of the past. Oh yeah, I remember when I was involved with that. Same thing. Same thing, just like a girlfriend. And I know now, I've got the gray hair and I'm, gained gained weight and the whole bit. I'm older. I mean, I'm 63. I'm not dating now. I don't have girlfriends at all. I have a great life, but it doesn't involve, I have friends, but it doesn't involve physical intimacy anymore. That's a personal choice. Plenty of people I know, they're married and the whole bit, but I just prefer the way I'm living now. I think it's fantastic. In a lot of ways, I'm happier now than I've ever been, in probably most ways. So I'm not talking about right now, but I'm just saying stocks remind me of girlfriends and how that whole, all of that played out, all those relationships, how it played out. So one day you're emotionally connected to the stock and or the girlfriend, and then the next you're not connected anymore. Something happens. She wanders off, you wander off. Something, just changes happen, and two ships pass in the night, and sometimes that one night lasts a few weeks or a few months or a few years, and then all of a sudden those two ships aren't passing each other anymore. We spread apart. We continue on our own unique path. Stocks do the same thing too. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this, but if you are an investor, chances are you have become emotionally attached to your stocks, to the narratives about those stocks too. It's not just the numbers on paper. We remember how a certain stock made us feel. I won with that stock. I had success with that stock. I lost with that stock. That stock made me lose. I didn't feel good about that stock. And once bitten, twice shy. Definitely for me with stocks, I'll remember when I go, I'm not getting involved with that thing again. I could name names, but I won't, to protect a lot of things. But stocks can make you feel, when you make money from a stock, that's a good feeling. You can feel powerful, you can feel special. And then a stock that hurt you, that, maybe it jammed down, it dipped, or you bought it and the thing dumped again before you could get a stop loss on there. And, there it is, blood red, right there. Red is bad, green is good. Right there in front of me, there it is. What I just lost, that's pain. That is pain. We don't like losing. Losing a girlfriend, same thing. Maybe you took her to a party and she met somebody else at that party, or she's flirting with some guy or whatever. We can't control other people. Nature is nature. So whatever the situation was. I remember I got a call. I don't know why this was just triggered, but I was 3 or 4 years out of high school, and then somebody I was dating, while I was in high school, she called me out of the blue, like 2, 3, 4 years later, and I was at university, and you would think that you're done and dusted with somebody, but I remember she called me early on a Saturday morning, and she was crying, and I said, "Oh, what the hell? What's going on? Are you okay? You still have feelings for somebody, I had feelings for her. I mean, she was a great friend." And she said, "Yeah." And she names a name, and it was somebody in her class. "Yeah, we went out last night and blah, blah, blah." And I don't think I heard the end of that conversation. I knew right where he lived. And that, I hung up the phone and burned rubber. And, you know what I mean? I still had that in me for her. Like, I'm going to protect her. And then I realized later, wait a minute, why am I I didn't realize it at the time because it was a knee-jerk reaction. But later, it dawned on me, why am I protecting her honor the morning after when the night before she wasn't as focused on protecting her honor, right? Your honor, what am I doing over here on this guy's porch? Fred Flintstone on his front door. Why? But anyway, we've all been young. We've all done things like that. And I'm just saying, we get emotionally attached to these things, to people and to stocks. And, with stocks, even you'll hear news, and if it's a stock that burned you, you'll hear later, oh, the fundamentals were great. Oh, it's really improving, yada, yada, yada. And you're still like, nah, I don't care. Once bitten, twice shy. I ain't touching it. Once bitten, twice shy. That happened to me with quite a few stocks. I hear people, I'm not going to name it. I was just going to, but I'm not going to name it. I could give you a half dozen or a dozen stocks right now that I don't like because it, didn't go right. Didn't go the way it was supposed to go. It went a different way than it was supposed to go. And that's just like dating. Tell me that's not like dating. It's like you think someone's a certain way and you talk to them a little bit and you finally go out. She's in your car, and so you start driving somewhere and you're like halfway to where you're going to go, a party or a restaurant or whatever. And you're like, oh my God, she's not like my imagination was telling me she was going to be. I can already tell. She's just in my car. We haven't even got to where we're getting yet. I remember thinking that. And then you go through the motions of the date and all that. Or it's the exact opposite. And you just click with somebody. You get along like peas and carrots, they say, like bread and butter, like peanut butter and jelly. And then it's just, easy. Then it's just like a friend. Stocks are the same way. I have experienced, And this year I had a great run with IREN, IREN. I had a great run with IREN. I mean, she's an old girlfriend. That stock and I had a wonderful romance together. Right now, I'm not touching it. So we're not seeing each other, Recently I was dating, the ticker symbol is SATL, 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 SATL. It's a great little company. I made some money on that. And Poet, late last week, Poet took off out of nowhere. I got a tip, hey, check this out. So I'm looking at it one day. The next morning I invested. It happened to take off. I kept it overnight, and I'm glad I did because the stock was up even before market opened the next morning. And then it took off. And I'm thinking, it went from, I think, like 1360, I got it, 1365, and it hit 20 on a 48-hour hold, less than 36 hours or so. And it was hard to let go of because I'm like, this thing's peaking, but I don't know that. Is it going to run up even more tomorrow? That's a very difficult part of trading too, is you're up and you're just like, how far is this thing going to go? So it's fascinating. Our human emotional connections, what we get connected with emotionally. Fascinating. Unbelievable. Interesting, exciting, volatile. Sometimes it's a good fit. Other times it's not a good fit. At the moment, right now, today, I'm in cash. I'm single, ready to mingle. Tomorrow morning, we'll see what's happening. So yeah, single and ready to mingle. Stay in cash right now. I don't have a favorite stock right now. And And I kind of like that. I like being free like that. I really, it tastes good to me, being free, freedom, cashing out, going back to cash. Then you've got options with cash. With cash, you're flexible. You can do anything you want. Bet against the market, bet for the market. You can do anything you want. Buy into oil if it dips. You know, I'm stunned about gold too. How come you got a war over in the Middle East? How come gold is just sitting there? I don't get it. I don't understand. You know, so we get emotionally attached, and when I get emotionally attached, I'll speak clearly now. I stop observing clearly. My observational skills get a little cloudy. They get clouded over because I really like something and I really want it to succeed. So I start defending a stock. I rationalize weakness toward it. I hope that it's going to take off again. It'll bottom out. Okay. I know you're going to get going again tomorrow. Tomorrow. I ignore warning signs. It's exactly what happens in relationships that stop being good for us, right? You stop seeing what is and you start seeing what you want to see, what you hope it's going to become. And that's why some investors hold collapsing stocks forever. Not because the chart looks good, but because emotionally, sometimes we find it difficult to let go. And then the flip side of that is the market is constantly introducing us to new possibilities. There's new IPOs almost every day of the week. There's companies you and I haven't discovered yet. And then you'll see something or, this company, NVIDIA just signed a contract with XYZ and you're like, XYZ, my God, where did they come from? I never heard of them before. Or whoever signed the contract with them, right? So the media feeds us this information, these new bits, there's new stories, new momentum, new excitement, new opportunity. There's always another new stock coming in. So maybe the real skill in investing is learning how to enjoy a relationship with the stock without emotionally marrying that stock, because again, great companies do not always make great stocks, and great stocks do not stay great forever. Everything is constantly in flux. Everything's constantly changing. Momentum changes, narrative changes, leadership changes, and investors who adapt survive, right? Investors who become emotionally frozen, horse blinders. I can only trade this stock. I can't trade anything else. That has to be this one, right? Then he's not going to survive. He's not adapting. That trader's not adapting. He's not remaining flexible. His clarity has been clouded, right? So maybe the best investors aren't people who fall deeply in love with stocks. The best investors may be people who can appreciate a stock without losing themselves inside of the stock. Say, just like relationships, have you ever lost yourself in a relationship? Nod your head, yes. Yes. Guilty, Your Honor, as charged, right? Anyway, that insight came to me this morning. I just thought that was an interesting observation. Why stocks sometimes feel strangely similar to relationships. Let me know if you've ever had a stock. Let me know if you have ever fallen in love with a stock and then after the relationship ended, you never touched it again, or what happened? What is your situation? Okay, let me know. I'll see you next time.